If we're caught in the paradigms that we've been in the Kali Yuga, the paradigms of separation, the paradigms that are now manifesting in scientific materialism, then we see everything outside of us as, this external reality that we can try to analyze or objectify. But when we're opening to the healing and transformation that we're being called into, then we realize everything is consciousness.
Do you believe that trauma is at the root of why we forget our multidimensional nature, or is there also something more to it?
So I do believe that in this ascending-descending cycle, there may be some deeper meaning to why we go through these periods to come back into connection. But I do think that when we start into the Kali Yuga and into the forgetting, the most shadow aspects of humanity begin to emerge. And we've been in 5,000 years of trauma on the planet.
Hello, family. I know that this time can feel like a very strange in-between, like we're holding the weight of everything that we lived in 2025, while also sensing the pulse of the energies that are coming in for 2026. And I wanted to share for a minute about something that we've never done before. And it's a pivotal part about what we want to see for the new Earth, both co-leadership and community convergence. Our beloved multiple-time podcast guest, Kelly Kalatny, Channel for the Angel Raphael, and I are coming together for something truly historic and powerful. During this last month of the year, we're going to journey into a 3-week light code featuring powerful Mary Magdalene frequencies. Our planet is currently seeing a surge in the embodiment of the divine feminine codes. And there's yet a need to find a balance with our masculine Christ consciousness energies. And you are invited to come together with us to truly end this year in a special way. As part of this special offering, you'll be invited into 2 live virtual recorded events, one on 12/12 and the other on the winter solstice that Kelly and I will be hosting alongside special guests. You will be provided with countless hours of transmissions and channelings that activate the union of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. Also, we are offering full access to 2 months of the Deep Dive membership. That means weekly circles, our whole library of exclusive Monroe Institute meditations, and a chance to connect with your soul family. But beyond what's included, this is a container of shared integration. This is about birthing the new human, restoring the original codes of divine union, and gathering as 2 tribes during key celestial portals, while also navigating together the frequencies of the incoming 3-eye atlas. And finally, we'll end the year together like we've never done before. You can head over now to the link in description or scan the QR code on screen and be part of this historic convergence. We will intentionally begin on the full moon December 4th, and I can't wait to see you all there. Much love. Heather Ensworth, welcome back on Just Tap In. What are you most excited about right now globally and in your life?
Thank you, Emilio, for being in this conversation. I think in terms of what I'm excited about globally, I feel like this is such a profound time of remembering and awakening and being in an accelerated time of transformation collectively. And I can feel the energies just intensifying, and it's exhilarating. And in my own life, I feel that, and the intensity of what we're clearing and healing and purging as we're in that transition. So it can feel very intense at times, but I feel like this is such a profound time on the planet, and that we've incarnated to be here and be a part of it.
We're recording this on the December 4th full moon, and you've talked about this very potent, transformative window of time from here until the 19th of December. I would like to start off there because I feel like it sets a backdrop of what humanity is going through, especially going into this new year. What have you been seeing from this evolutionary astrology perspective, intuitively as well, through your own experiences, your own feelings about what is happening on the planet right now? Where would you like to take us into this window of time that we're living through?
We can talk about this window from, I think, this full moon, and I love that we're doing this talk on this full moon, is a profound preparation for Three-Eye Atlas making its pass by the Earth on the new moon on December 19th, just before the solstice. But I think there's a larger period from March of 2025, when we exited the Kali Yuga, to March of 2026, when Three-Eye Atlas makes its final pass by Jupiter and we have the March equinox. This year, from March equinox 2025 to March 2026, I think is a profound time of transformation for us on the planet.
I have absolute full body chills as you said that, because in my mind's eye, I saw this almost cosmic being get the call that humanity was living through this period and exiting a cycle. And the fact that it's leaving a year from when that cycle ends, I don't know. I just want to stay on that significance for a moment and what you've tuned into around why that is.
One of the things that has just filled me with wonder and awe is the synchronicity of this interstellar being. I don't see it as a comet. I see it as a highly conscious interstellar being that's billions of years old, that's come into our solar system at this critical time. It was discovered in July in the stars of Ophiuchus, which I see as the constellation that is so symbolic of our need to reintegrate the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine to come into wholeness. That's where it appears. And then it made its first pass by Mars, October 3rd, made a pass by Venus, November 3rd, both within a few days of a full moon. Then it had its perihelion with the sun, October 29th. Now, December 19th, it will make its pass by Earth. And what's extraordinary is, and I'd love to get into this, the dance of Mars and Venus in all of this, because I think it's very significant that this interstellar being impacted or made its pass by Mars, then Venus, then the two of them disappeared under the beams of the sun to be in that sacred marriage with the sun, while the sun is absorbing the energies of Three-Eye Atlas. And then it makes its pass by the Earth and then finally by March. But the synchronicity of this, and that its pass by Mars and Venus were close to a full moon, its pass by the Earth will be on the day of the new moon, and then its pass by Jupiter a few days before a new moon. The synchronicity of that, the timing of that, and I think the symbolism in it all is extraordinary. It so shows me that we are held in the love and wisdom of cosmic consciousness, trying to guide us through this transition and transformation. And there are more layers to it I'd love to talk about, but that's the big picture.
Yeah. And I'm almost getting the hit that only really deep astrologers that, like you, that understand these larger cycles can appreciate the timing and the synchronicities and the order behind everything. To stay on that topic of Mars and Venus, there almost seems like there's this coming back, or this like reunion of the masculine and the feminine energies. And because you've been so focused on these larger cycles, if we go back to the ages of Leo, Taurus, Pisces, how did that play out in terms of the energies, beyond just gender and genitals, of the masculine, of the feminine? And how is the age of Aquarius turning everything upside down with those two points of consciousness and energies?
Such a great question. You played such powerful music before we came on this recording, and it activated such remembrance for me of ancient wisdom, ancient times when we lived in harmony and balance. And then 12,000 years ago, we started into the descending cycle of consciousness. And we really went into the time of forgetting towards the end of the age of Taurus, up through the age of Aries and the age of Pisces. So the last 5,000 to 6,000 years have been the time of our being in that illusion of separation. I think it really got activated about 3000 BCE when there were a lot of incidents that triggered climate crisis, a lot of catastrophe on the planet. I think we got caught in survival mentality. We got caught in fear. And I think it led to that longing for control, and it led us into competition and conflict. We got caught in these paradigms then in the age of Aries of the misuse of Mars and getting caught in war and violence. I think the age of Pisces was meant to heal that. And you and Kelly Kolodny are doing this amazing program this month, integrating Christ consciousness and the divine feminine. I think that was the intent of the beginning of the age of Pisces and the message of Christ and Mary. But we overrode that and continued in that out of balance illusion of separation. And I believe we are now, in a profound way, being called into the opportunity to heal, to awaken, and to make an evolutionary leap as humanity. And here's the amazing thing, Emilio. 3i Atlas, I think, is trying to change the energies of Mars, of Venus, of the Earth, of Jupiter, to bring us back into harmony, bring us back into balance. The three planets that are the rulers of those ages when we got into the Kali Yuga and the time of forgetting: age of Taurus, ruled by Venus; age of Aries, ruled by Mars; age of Pisces, traditional ruler, Jupiter. It's almost as if it's seeding that energy of remembrance and higher consciousness into the planetary rulers of those ages to help us heal and release this trauma, release the illusion of separation, and come back into higher consciousness.
Can you remind me for a second, what is the planet ruler of the age of Aquarius?
Its traditional ruler is Saturn, and its modern ruler is Uranus.
And so what does that mean from a higher perspective?
I think we're being guided to heal what got out of balance during the time of the Kali Yuga to support our activation into the age of Aquarius, which is the paradigm of collaboration, cooperation, harmony, coming back into connection with our hearts, coming back into unity consciousness.
In our first conversation, which was, again, very timely, March, ending of the Kali Yuga, you talked about this dimensional divide. And I wanted to go a little bit deeper into that as it relates to 3i Atlas, and I'll get there in a moment, because I feel that, if I talk to, a person that maybe isn't tuning in to this space, And I'll be like, hey, did you hear about this comet, this whatever is going on? They'll be like, oh yeah, it's just a floating rock in space. And then you talk to someone like you and me, and they're like, it's a cosmic messenger, it's an interstellar being. And so I wanted to get into how we perceive these objects from a dimensional perspective, and then how then they are mirrored back to us in our consciousness by the way that we're perceiving it in the first place. And that also hints to this dimensional divide that you were talking to us about in our first conversation.
That so gets to the heart of it, because if we're caught in the paradigms that we've been in the Kali Yuga, the paradigms of separation, the paradigms that are now manifesting in scientific materialism, then we see everything outside of us as, this external reality that we can try to analyze or objectify. But when we're opening to the healing and transformation that we're being called into, then we realize everything is consciousness. Everything is interconnected. And then for me, and that's part of what I've been feeling more and more fully, is this sense of wonder that we are in communion and communication with the earth and sky. And this is how we're being guided and supported to be in this transformational process. We are held, we are loved, we are being guided step by step in how we can come back into connection and how we can move into unity consciousness.
I got a taste of this notion of perceiving from higher dimensions when I was with Robert Edward Grant in Peru, because we went on many sacred site visits, and the further we got on in that trip, and I was always, near Robert and trying to understand how he was perceiving these sacred sites while also perceiving them in my own internal being. But one thing that was really interesting is that he could see a mountain or a rock and see a being, a face within that mountain or rock. And the more I started tuning into it, I was like, and this is not him telling me and then I'll see it. There's moments in the group where I would kind of separate myself and experience this for myself. And there's just certain things that you perceive, and you can start tuning into the fact that there are multiple layers of dimensions in just that one, because it's all energy. And so you can perceive something from many different, I can perceive it as a third dimensional object in solid form or perception of solid, but then I can also perceive it from, these higher dimensions. And I wanted to talk to you about how you see humanity rising in its consciousness to be able to, and how it relates to Lemuria, how it relates to Mayan ancient civilizations, their disappearance, supposedly. How is that all related? I know it's a lot I just threw at you, but how would you begin to connect those points of our perception, consciousness, and how the world outside of us is also changing almost instantaneously right now?
There are so many layers to that, and part of it is up until the age of Aries, which was about 2000 BCE to 0 current era. Up until that point, we were neurologically right brain dominant, and one of the things Robert talks a lot about is pattern recognition. That visual capacity to see patterns, to see things as symbolic, to see and understand things in an integrated way as part of a whole is right brain ways of knowing. And part of our getting caught in the illusion of separation was getting into left brain dominance, where then we are separating ourselves. It becomes self and object, and we're analyzing things and using linear thinking and critiquing things rather than being in relationship. And right brain ways of knowing are also about being in empathic attunement. And I think as that returns, and I love your description of that experience in Peru, and I loved my time in Cusco and in the high mountains in Peru. And when you begin to realize and open to everything being conscious, then you're in relationship with the mountains, with the sacred sites, with the plants, with the animals, with the stars and the planets. We're back in relationship, and then we can be in communication and communion with them. We can be, I love, what people who are tuning into Three Eye Atlas, like Kelly Kolodny and Susie Miller, are getting in direct messages from this interstellar being. I think we're all moving more and more fully into being telepathic again, which was true in those ancient advanced cultures in Lemuria, the Mayans. And I think, as my friend Keone Hanalei would say, the Lemurians and some of these ancient cultures, because they were in such a higher dimension, as the earth got and humanity got caught in increasing density and lower consciousness, it did create a dimensional divide. And he believes they're still here, just in an invisible reality, because they're in a different dimension.
Does he tune into them still?
He is very tuned into his whole 20,000-year lineage, and believes a lot of those memories are held in the spinal column, and he can tap into those memories and into that lineage. But I think I think part of what's getting activated for all of us is that remembrance. And more of us are remembering different incarnational experiences, tapping more into our own ancient lineages. And I believe the earth herself is coming back into remembrance of her history and her experience, and guiding us to remember her history, our history.
You call the Kali Yuga the age of forgetting. And I wanted to ask you there, why do you feel, from an evolutionary perspective, humanity chose this forgetting of all of our memories and having that wiped from our being? What was the lesson? What was the gold, the gift inside of that?
And to me, that's still a philosophical quandary. Was it a choice, or was it because we got caught in trauma and went into trauma coping patterns that led into this time of forgetting and being in, the different ways of coping with trauma: fight, flight, freeze. But at a deeper spiritual level, my sense is that this cycle, the Yuga cycle of ascending and descending consciousness, I believe its deeper intent is that when we go through this time of forgetting and the suffering that results from that, when we reemerge and return to that awakening and remembrance, we feel a level of gratitude and appreciation of what it means to be back in that sense of oneness with all that is, that depth of love that we wouldn't have without going through that time of forgetting and disconnection.
Do you believe that trauma is at the root of why we forget our multidimensional nature, or is there also something more to it?
So I do believe that in this ascending descending cycle, there may be some deeper meaning to why we go through these periods to come back into connection. But I do think that when we start into the Kali Yuga and into the forgetting, the most shadow aspects of humanity begin to emerge. And we've been in 5,000 years of trauma on the planet. I feel such pain and horror at some of what's being revealed just, in recent years in terms of what's happening around the globe and the level of war, trauma, suffering. abuse, destruction. We've been doing this for generations. We've been doing this for 5,000 years. And I think then trauma begets trauma. And when we're caught in trauma, then we're operating unconsciously. We're not operating from a place of wholeness or centeredness. And I strongly believe that part of this time that we're in now is we're being guided in an accelerated way to heal individually and collectively so that we can clear the trauma, to come back into balance, to move into higher consciousness. And as a psychologist, I'm amazed at how accelerated that healing process can be for people now. To heal trauma from this lifetime, past lives, a lot of ancestral lineage trauma is getting healed. I think we're being supported to be in that healing process, to be able to make this evolutionary leap in consciousness.
From a bigger picture perspective also, I wanted to ask you, how much of that trauma that we're meant to release and process and let go of is up to the individual versus how much is just the time that we're in, the cycle that we're in, allowing that to be facilitated? I guess the question, because that's a little bit complex the way I worded it, how much of our own personal will and action and effort is involved in this trauma release versus just letting it happen from a collective and cyclical standpoint?
I mean, that's a really important question. And at the root of it, my approach to astrology is evolutionary astrology, because I believe that these experiences that we're in and the energies that we're in are not predictive or deterministic. It's all about consciousness, and it's all guiding us in our own journey of evolution of consciousness. So and part of the wonder for me of 3i Atlas and some of these energies that are playing out right now in our solar system, not only 3i Atlas, but the solar energies, the reactivation of the galactic center are moving through the galactic sheet. There's so much support in the field, in the morphogenic field, for us to heal and awaken. But we still have that choice, whether to open to those energies or to resist them. And I love that Hopi prophecy about, this is the time. We are the ones we've all been waiting for. Let go of the shore. Be in the river. Let the river carry you. That we need to stop clinging to the past, and we can resist these energies. But if we open to them and allow ourselves to be in the river, the currents of change that are guiding us through this transformational process, then they will carry us into these new ways of being. But we have a choice.
It's the free will that we were gifted with. And if we resist, what do you feel is that potential for, a collective, if these energies are being resisted, if we don't want to look at our traumas, if we don't want to look at our shadow aspects of ourselves, what is the outcome of resistance in the bigger picture?
I think that's actually what we're seeing on the planet right now. I think we're seeing the two extremes. We're seeing the incredible awakening that's happening and the movement into higher consciousness by so many. And I think we're seeing the most intense shadow aspects of humanity playing out right now. The extremes of power over, of destruction, war, violence, abuse. It's playing out already as a kind of dimensional divide. And my hope is that, and the Peruvian shamans would talk about this, that if there's enough of us that are emanating that energy of love and healing into the collective consciousness, it can support the shift. But again, we each have our own choice whether we open to that or continue to resist that.
I've heard you say that it takes 10% of humanity to hold a higher consciousness to shift the world. And I was really curious to hear, where did that 10% notion come from? I understand it's more of a philosophical statement, but also I think there's some depth to it as to what it really means to have a concentrated group. Joe Dispenza says it's not the amount of people, but the coherence of the signal. So I wanted to go deeper into that with you of where that thought or notion came about for you.
That actually came from my work and training with some of the Peruvian shamans, because they were saying very much what Joe Dispenza would say, that it doesn't take the masses to make the shift. It takes that small concentrated percentage that are emanating that into the morphogenic field that can transform the collective.
Beautiful. It's powerful to even just acknowledge that, because it takes away the limiting thought of, but we need 8 billion people on the same page, guys. Let's get it on. Like more podcasts, more books,
Exactly.
One thing that you're really going deep into right now in your work is all about the 4 royal stars, Aldebaran, Regulus, Antares, and Fomalhaut. You've also called them the medicine wheel of the sky. What is their significance right now and what we're going through as a collective?
Such a great question. I love your questions, Emilio. I have been so moved by the ancient wisdom of the medicine wheel and how that's at the root of every ancient culture and still so honored in so many indigenous cultures. And it's so much about a path to come into wholeness, a path to reclaim all the aspects of ourselves, to heal, to come into alignment with the earth and sky and cosmic consciousness and our soul self. And I do believe that Hermetic principle, as above, so below. As it is outside of us, so it is within us. That we also have that medicine wheel in the sky with the 4 royal stars that are in the constellations of Taurus, Aquarius, Scorpio, Leo. Those are the ages in the Yuga cycle when we make shifts in consciousness.
Wow.
So not only do they carry messages for us about how to come into wholeness, how to come into higher consciousness, but they hold that medicine wheel in the sky, helping us remember that larger cycle of consciousness, that evolution of consciousness that we move through as we move through the Yuga cycle and the ascending, descending consciousness.
You've also mentioned that these royal stars are guiding us into these core qualities that we're meant to integrate. What are those, and also what are the shadow aspects of these qualities?
What's really interesting to me is, let's start with Antares. And the sun, at the time of this full moon, is very close to Antares, the heart of the scorpion in the stars of Scorpius, associated with the sign of Scorpio. Antares is about transformation. It's about alchemy. It's about moving through intense experiences and that alchemical transformational process to come into the true gold of who we are. Out of balance, the shadow aspect of that, instead of it being about transformation, it can become the intensity of traumatization. Scorpio. And I am more and more getting into visual astrology and what the sky tells us, because I love that above the stars of Scorpius and the royal star Antares is the constellation Ophiuchus. the great healer is guiding us that this intensity that we go through is meant to be a transformational journey, not our getting pulled into the underworld, into trauma, to then be caught in that destructive energy. But that's the shadow side. Then if we go to Leo, the royal star is Regulus, which is literally the heart of the lion, which is guiding us to live from our hearts with courage. For me, I think of it as, Leo is very associated with that energy of the sun. And it's about how do we let the sun and the light of consciousness move through our hearts for our own self-expression, our own expression as that fractal of cosmic consciousness. But if we get caught in ego, then Regulus can become, I am the light. And that longing to be the center of attention and that form of leadership that can then turn into power over and glorification of the self that becomes very destructive. So that's Regulus. Then we have Aldebaran, the eye of the bull of Taurus, which is all about how do we live Taurus in an embodied way from integrity, with that clarity of vision, discernment, integrity. But out of balance, it means we can get caught in greed and ways that we are not operating from ethical values and principles. We're out of integrity. So they're intense energies with a gift and a shadow side. And the final one is Fomalhaut, which is under the stars of Aquarius, the water bear. I love that the water bearer is pouring the urn of living waters to the earth. I see that as the waters of living wisdom and energy from the cosmos. And Fomalhaut is in the mouth of the fish, taking in those living waters. And so it's very symbolic of taking in the wisdom of cosmic consciousness, to be in wisdom within ourselves and to honor that connection that we have to the consciousness of the cosmos. Out of balance, then we get caught in disconnection and forgetting and feel like we aren't a part of that interconnectedness of all that is.
Beautiful qualities: integrity, courage, transformation, and wisdom, to tie that together again. And it got me thinking, because now you're really going deep into the visual aspect of astrology. You're talking about how these stars represent the heart of the lion, the eye of the bull. And if I look at our culture today, if I'm lucky enough to be in a place where there's not a lot of artificial light and I could see the stars, well, I just see twinkles in the sky. But our ancient lineages, they would see these whole stories and mythologies and symbolism. And I'm really curious as to what you believe they were tapping into in order to give us this map of our solar system, of our cosmos. I know it's a very, very deep esoteric question, but it just bewilders me of how they were able to see that up in the sky, where I just look up and I see little twinkles, I'm like, oh, there's a little twinkle in there. I see 3 stars and they're like, no, that's the belt of a guy named Orion, I'm really curious to go deeper into that.
It's so true. And I've been, as you know, I just am passionate about prehistory. So I've been doing, a deeper dive into all of that. And there's a great book called Prehistory Decoded by Sweatman. And it's about Göbekli Tepe. That's its original focus. But part of what he talks about is this understanding of the constellations was an astrological language that's probably our oldest language, that dates back thousands and thousands of years. And now when we look at the stars and we think, how in the world are they seeing a lion out of those stars of Leo? But again, if we remember, these ancient cultures were attuning to the consciousness of the stars. And in relationship with them, I think the stars were communicating to them about their wisdom and their messages and their meaning. So otherwise, how do you understand that so many cultures around the globe were seeing different constellations in very similar images? But I also love, and you've spent time in Peru, that some cultures, instead of seeing what are the shape of the stars and how are they showing a shape, the ancient Peruvians looked at the darkness between the stars and their constellations related to the shapes of the darkness, the empty space.
Wow. What did they tune into around the darkness?
For example, the dark rift in the Milky Way that is our view of the galactic center. For them, they saw it as a llama with her child giving birth. So it's their meanings are very similar to what we've come up with, but they were looking at the dark space instead of the brightness of the stars, which again, I think is that wisdom of integrating the duality, the light and dark, the wisdom of the dark, the wisdom of the light.
And they really understood this principle, this hermetic law of as above, so below, like on a whole different level. With Robert, while we were in Peru, we got the chance to have a private visit, just a few of us from the staff, into Sacsayhuaman. And it was with one of the top archaeologists in the world right now in Peru, Jorge Calero. And he was showing us that the discoveries he made was that, Cusco, if you look at it from an aerial view, it's the face of a jaguar. Wow. Or a llama. I can't remember which one, but every sacred city, every sacred site, if you look at it from an aerial view, it's either like a jaguar, it's a llama, it's something that's representing, it's like a mirror. Who knows what they were trying to represent with that? Maybe our cosmic visitors that would see these figures from up there. But who knows? It's really just this principle that they tuned into really deeply. So along those lines, if we're looking up at the sky, we're seeing lions, we're seeing all this mythology. How does that then mirror as above, so below into our cultures, our daily lives, how our civilizations were built? It's fascinating, really.
It is fascinating. And there's a book by Mark Vidler called Star Mirror, and he actually believes that the highest mountains mirror the brightest stars, and that we have this synchronization of sacred sites and some of the brightest stars or the royal stars, that there is this incredible mirroring of the energies of the sky and the earth. And again, I think it comes from that ancient wisdom that everything was interconnected and everything was mirroring everything else. Everything was one. The ancient Sumerians didn't see the division between heaven and earth. They thought we were part of heaven earth, that it's all whole. And I think we've gotten caught in these last 5,000 years in this illusion of separation, and we start dividing everything and we get caught in duality and polarization. But we're remembering now that everything is actually part of the oneness. And then it is amazing that these sacred sites are mirroring stars. And in Peru, the rivers, and this is true of the Nile in Egypt, was thought to mirror the Milky Way. So it's that sense that everything is in attunement, everything is in relationship, everything is in harmony.
I wanted to travel into the future for a moment to June 2032. And there is a deep connection with Saturn, Uranus, and something around Orion. We mentioned it briefly. But what could you tell us around that point in time, if we were to look into the future, in the stars, in the planetary conjunctions, what is going on there?
So Saturn and Uranus will come into conjunction in the final degrees of Gemini, but in the stars, that conjunction in June of 2032 is in the upraised arm of Orion. And I believe that we have the 12 constellations of the zodiac, and the 13th and 14th constellations, Ophiuchus and Orion, I believe are symbolic of our journey of collective evolution of consciousness. That Ophiuchus is symbolic of our being in our wholeness. The golden age, our golden age starts in the age of Scorpio, which means it's also the age of Ophiuchus, because Ophiuchus is right above Scorpio. And Orion is so symbolic of how we've been on this journey of ascending and descending consciousness. And that constellation actually moves in its declination as we go through the precessional cycle. So when we're in connection with the earth and sky and in that ancient understanding and higher consciousness, it's touching the earth. Now it's at its farthest in highest in the sky from the earth as we're coming out of the Kali Yuga. But in ancient Egypt, the upraised arm of Orion was symbolic of order triumphs over chaos. It's the energy of resurrection. So I believe this time of transformation that we're in is 2025, March 2025, and we're in this collective time of transition and transformation until June 2032, when I think our choice collectively will be clear. And the intent, the journey we're on, is to heal, to transform, to awaken, to remember, to come to that conjunction of Saturn and Uranus, new forms, new paradigms, new ways of being in the upraised arm of Orion. Resurrection, movement into higher consciousness.
Wow. And what's crazy is, like, we're not talking about 1,000 years into the future. We're literally talking about 6 years, maybe, if I'm doing my math correctly. What's your highest advice as preparations for this huge collective shift? Maybe some of your own practices that have helped you in this journey to, go through these energies. We were talking right before the call, like, it's been intense. It's been really intense. And for a lot of people I know as well, they're saying the same thing. So I know it starts with how we approach our lives with our spiritual disciplines and practices, and the way that we just approach and see the world. What can you share with us around that?
I think collectively, for us to really make this shift, we have to reintegrate the sacred feminine and sacred masculine, which is why I think it's so powerful that 3i Atlas is activating those planets. They're bathing now in the energies of the sun. They will both emerge back into view early March, just before 3i Atlas makes its pass by Jupiter, March 16th. So it's like they're in their own alchemical transformational process. We need to be working that within ourselves and reclaiming the sacred masculine in balance. And I know you're doing a lot of beautiful work around that. And reclaiming the wisdom of the sacred feminine, which is about being in right relationship with each other and all that is. So part of my daily practice is trying to really attune moment by moment. Is this action, is this decision in right relationship, right harmony? Or is it out of balance within myself, out of balance in relationship, out of balance in how I'm interacting with the natural environment around me? But the other practices that I do to really support me in staying centered in the midst of this intense time, I do the medicine wheel practice every day, which I think is so helpful in honoring all the facets of ourselves, but coming to center. And when we're at that center, and then when I'm at the center of the medicine wheel, I attune down to the core of the earth, then up through my crown chakra to the galactic center, and run those energies through my central channel to then fill me, align me, bring me back into connection with my soul self and the sea of cosmic consciousness, and then to activate my heart. And it's such a powerful, simple, beautiful practice that really helps me come back to balance and come back into that sense of being centered and aligned with the earth and sky, my soul self, and the consciousness of the cosmos.
Would you say the heart is the center of our own being? It
is our center chakra. And it is, as you know, and you've done so much work around this, it is through our coming into heart coherence and living more and more fully from our hearts that we can move into this higher consciousness.
What is the heart of the universe?
You could say the heart of our galaxy is the galactic center, the sacred womb that has birthed all that is now reactivating as of 2024, emanating out these energies of new birth, of life, of love, trying to activate everything in our galaxy, everything in our solar system to help us in this shift.
Because I've also heard planetarily, we move through the galaxy and the solar system. What's the significance of moving closer to the galactic center for the planet itself?
Well, we are in a dance with the Pleiades and with our solar system around the galactic center. It's a huge cycle. So we have the precessional cycle, but then we have this whole movement around the galactic center. But if you think about the galactic center as the source of everything in our galaxy, and I just had a really interesting conversation with Bibhu Dev Misra around the consciousness of the galactic center, which he describes from the Vedic texts as Brahma. So it's reminding us again that wisdom has birthed us, that consciousness of the cosmos has created all that is. And as we come back in connection with our hearts, we come back into connection with the heart of our galaxy. We come back into connection with that sense of oneness with all that is.
Mm-hmm. Our first conversation was also like this one, very deep, but there's something in there that I would like to go deeper into around the binary star system that you explained, what that really means, if we could revisit that for a moment. Because I couldn't help but think of it when you talked about the dance that the Pleiades and our galaxy goes through with the galactic center. Is that related in any way to this binary system that you've discovered or seen in your own study?
I really believe the precessional cycle is related to our being a part of a binary star system. I mean, 80% of the stars in our galaxy are binary stars. So I believe, along with Walter Cruttenden and other researchers, that our sun is a binary star. There's controversy over what that other star is. I strongly believe it's the brightest star in our sky, Sirius, which is so associated with Isis. I believe the ancient cultures understood these cycles. That understanding of precession goes back thousands and thousands of years. And the star Sirius is so honored by the Dogon tribes in Africa, by the ancient Egyptians, by so many ancient cultures. And to me, it is our dance with this star. So we're in relationship, and our journey is a journey of relationship. Not the sun is a solar hero and a solo hero, but we're in this dance of relationship. And my sense is that we may move into forgetting as we move further from Sirius, our binary star, and then as we come closer, come back into more connection, we remember, and our consciousness moves into that ascending cycle. But it's so significant that Sirius is associated with Isis and that ancient story of Isis and Osiris, where Osiris is symbolic of our journey as humanity, getting caught in conflict, getting torn apart. She's constantly there to heal us, restore us, bring us back into balance. And I think she's guiding us in this journey of recovery and remembering and healing and transformation. And then we're a part of that larger cycle circling the galactic center.
Mm. Yeah, I know you have a deep connection with Isis, and to go full circle into where we started this conversation, you said that you wanted to deepen a little bit more into this Mars-Venus archetype and these new templates that are being formed for humanity, especially between these energies of the masculine and the feminine. What else are you sensing into around these relationships that are going on right now in the sky and in here?
What's amazing to me is the synchronicity of all of how this is unfolding. So Mars and Venus in their own cycle together have about a 6.5-year synoded cycle. They are currently under the beams of the sun, meaning they're ending a cycle they've been in together and preparing to begin a new one. They're each also in their own journeys of ending a cycle, beginning a new cycle. But they have been activated by 3i Atlas. Now they're merged with the sun, bathing in that alchemical energy and light of transformation. They will emerge in a new cycle. So it's like we're being called within ourselves to clear the out of balance sacred masculine and sacred feminine. And the planets themselves are being transformed. It's as above, so below. As it is outside of us, so it is within us. As it is within us, so it is outside of us. The fact that then they emerge early in March, and Venus will emerge in the sign of Pisces. Mars will emerge in the sign of Pisces, but in the stars of Aquarius. Venus is starting her new cycle as an evening star in the stars of Pisces. Pisces, ruled by Neptune, is the higher octave of Venus, which is about bathing in divine love, unconditional love. Mars emerges actually in the stars of Aquarius as a morning. It emerges in the morning sky. Mars in Aquarius. How do you move out of conflict, competition, out of balance Mars, back into Aquarius, collaboration, community, connection? So it's literally playing out in the sky to guide us in how to be in this transformation. And then 3i Atlas activates Jupiter, and then it exits. And here's the amazing thing too. It appeared in the stars of Ophiuchus, associated with the Golden Age. Then it moved through Libra into Virgo, which is where it is now. All the signs associated with the Golden Age. It will then move into Leo, the sign of the age that began our journey into descending consciousness, and then it will exit. It's almost saying, remember the Golden Age, remember that higher consciousness, activating the changes in these planets and in our consciousness to then say, now it's complete, and it exits. That is
I'm just in
beautiful.
awe. I'm just in awe of, like, first of all, the moment of time that we chose to be here in, and also the way that you're so beautifully able to weave together the significance of the times and the significance of what we're going through. Joe Dispenza also says a lot, like, you have to assign meaning to the act. We're meaning making, beings. And what's crazy is that the more we assign meaning to the times that we're in, we can actually step into a greater octave of ourselves, a greater expression of ourselves, because we know that we're part of something much greater. We're not just this siloed little species out in a alone universe. And I know that anyone tuning into this will agree with me on that we are part of this greater collective. And what's beautiful is that, you are joining us. Pam Gregory's joining us with Kelly Kaladny into this convergence where we are mirroring what's happening in the stars. Basically, the way that you framed it there, we're allowing ourselves to be conduits and vessels for this new iteration of the human. And Kelly's guiding us through this powerful light code, which started today, but people will still be able to enter up until the 12th. And on 12/12, you will be joining us for this beautiful live event. I'm excited for the ending of this year. It feels like a grand finale to actually, well, Richard Rudd would say the grand finale is on the 2027. But I feel like these windows of years that we're part of is like the grand show, the grand play, and being part of this with you and with everyone that's around us and tuning into this is truly a blessing. And I want to acknowledge the moment. Is there anything else that you would like to mention around this significance before we get into the final segment of our conversation?
I, again, just am so excited and grateful that this convergence is happening this month, and that what you're doing with Kelly, and I'm so excited to be a part of it, is honoring the reintegration of the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine to guide us into wholeness, to guide us into the new birth possible at the time of that solstice. And the December solstice, the sun and moon and Mars and Venus will all be merged at the galactic center. It's showing us the way back into coming to center, coming back into unity consciousness. And it's so powerful that you're doing this program timing with that powerful transition that we're all going through collectively.
Yeah, it feels like I was right place, right time. We're all right place, right time. And Kelly really is tuning into these, with Angel Raphael, of course, into this progression of what humanity is going through since March, when this powerful light code came through. And there's these, and she was telling us in class today how the light codes have been guiding us into something greater. This is like a convergence point because it's the divine feminine light code, but also there's a resurgence of the Christ consciousness coming in to rebalance. And then, the next light code that Kelly's doing after this one is called the death light code. So death in the rebirth sense, right? Not death as in the end sense, the rebirth sense. And so that's how the next year will start off. So I'm really excited to keep supporting Kelly on that journey and being a part of that, because I have to take my hat off because I know she's doing so much for humanity right now, and us too getting to go in and help out with our energies and have the whole community be a part of that is beautiful. Heather, we end every show with a segment called the final trio, like we did last time. Before that, I would love to give you the space to tell us what else you have going on in your life, where people can find you if they're new to your work and want to go deeper into your amazing teachings. Where would you send people to that?
To my website, risingmoonhealingcenter.com, and my YouTube channel. Yeah. Which is where I try to share a lot of this information.
Beautiful. We'll link everything in the show notes, along with all the books that you've written, which the last one that you were revising, I'm sure right now is a powerful read for the times that we're in, especially how it relates to the Galactic Center. And for the final trio, these questions are personalized to each guest. The first one I had for you was, if you could whisper one message to the future human who will look back at 2026, what would you tell them?
Remember who you truly are. Come back to your heart. Remember you're a soul self having a human experience.
When you tune into the soul of humanity, what quality is awakening that was asleep or dormant for many ages?
That awareness that everything is interconnected, that we've never been separate, we've never been alone. We're starting to awaken to that we've always been held in that oneness and in love.
And finally, what gives you the deepest faith in where we're headed as a collective?
I think what gives me the deepest faith is that awareness that we are so being guided and supported by the energies of the earth and how she's in her own transformational process, by the energies of the sky, that we're a part of this larger orchestrated unfolding and evolutionary process. So this isn't something that's just on us as humanity. I think we've got galactic beings, we've got multidimensional energies and beings supporting us in this. And that gives me a lot of comfort and a lot of faith.
Mm-hmm. We started off our conversation with a song that you mentioned, which is about, for me, it assured me that there was this support of this whole legion of shamans and ancient beings that were singing almost from the core of the earth. I don't know how to explain it, but I will link that song also in the show notes. It brought tears to both of our eyes, and I'm sure a lot of people will want to resonate. I played it the other day in our membership, and at the end we were all all in tears. There's a remembrance that happens when you allow yourself to remember. So Heather, thank you again for the beautiful dedication that you have to humanity, the messages that you're able to weave from all your study in these different fields, not just staying in one lane. Like, I feel like you have such a great sense of the bigger picture. That's why I can ask you these bigger picture questions, and you always know how to get to the core and the heart of the matter. And I always love just weaving with you as a person. So excited to reconnect and see where else this collaboration will take us. So thank you again, Heather, for all that you do. And I really, really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, Emilio. I love our conversations. I feel so moved by who you are and the work that you're doing. So it's wonderful to be back in connection with you.
Likewise. Until next time. Thank you so much.